Now let's talk about TOR. TOR is finally back. Many Ghanaians are happy. It's back after a lot of issues. So many years of shutdown with financial challenges and other challenges as well. Now Ghanaians are happy about TOR's comeback. But the question Ghanaians are asking is that, is TOR really back? That's the first question. Is it back? Is it back as in, is it back to stay? Or just one of those things that we see, a facade, and then at the end of the day, it dies off? Another question is, how long will it run? Is a question they ask. And finally, they ask, what does it mean with regards to fuel prices and development in Ghana? These are the questions Ghanaians are asking with regards to TOR's comeback. It's exciting to hear that it's come back, but then the questions are being asked. So Solomon, I'll start this. No, I think that I should start with Doc because he's an energy expert. So I should start this conversation with, and the question that people are asking, and maybe, Doc will be the one to answer it well, is if TOR is really back or this is a trial run, Doc.
Well, thank you once again. I think when I saw the news, I was a bit happy about it because for a very long time, we have been clamoring for TOR to be in operation. And now that it's back, then it means that something is really happening. Why has this thing been able to work? Now, you recall very well that if you look at BOST was also in a similar condition. BOST was virtually a defunct organization because they have run significant losses for a very long time. And not until 2022, 2023 thereabout, they began to make some profit. How did that come about? It came about because of good leadership. If you remember, when Kwadwo came into office, I think BOST alone has had about 3 change of leadership. After Obin came and the BOST scandal came in, and he has to finally have to resign. Another person came, and he also have to resign before Edwin Provenza came into office. So he came to turn around things. And in the business model, you cannot develop without certain mechanisms in place.
Right.
One, it has to do with profitability, sustainability of the profitability of the firm. It has to do with the internal processes of the firm. It has to do with the systems that you put in place to be able to ensure that the firm grows. And that was exactly what the gentleman did. One, the fact of the matter was that, if you look at TOR, BOST at that time, I want to build it from there, and right. Then I come to TOR. How TOR replicated similar mechanism. So he was able to work very hard to increase the BOST margin from 3 pesos to about 12 pesos. And that did the magic because most of their pipelines were defunct. The one in Kumasi, the one in the north, like I think this place, the one at Bogatanga was also down. So they have to open up all these pipelines. And I remember that there were some pipelines they procured some time back, and those pipelines were lying in offshore. They did not bring it, they were paying for it and all of that. He brought all those things in place to ensure that the system now worked. Now, how did TOR also did this? So when this current administration took over, I remember the John Mahama administration promised that they wanted to revamp it because Ghanaians were complaining. So it's also about the leadership and the political will. When the political will was given to BOST, they turn around. So if the flip happened and the political will is so given to TOR, they have to turn around. So what happened at TOR level was that TOR also have similar things, but you have to remember that TOR has the largest tanks farms in West Africa. So why is it that you have the largest tank farms, yet you are making losses? It doesn't make complete sense. And even the business at the port and all those things, you have them and you don't make profit. So when the new leadership took over, they sat down and did a lot of analysis.
Doc, if you don't mind me asking, what was causing the losses? Because that's the question Ghanaians
ask. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they were dysfunctional. So we're not actually putting them into place. If you have all
so it's a leadership problem.
The leadership problem. So when they took over, they said, okay, fine. If we have all these things in place, why should we still not be able to raise revenue? You remember last year, they wanted to sell it for a platter of $22 million. They say, okay, fine, let's put all of them into use so that when the BDCs buy fuel, they can store, we can lift for them, we can do etc. for them. All of this, and they were doing that. And
I ask you this, please pardon me. Was it political?
Well, I would say that, in Kwadwo regime, for the past 8 years, they have changed leadership. About 6 people have led TOR. So why is it that 6 people have led TOR and things are not working? And you have to remember that, you see, there is that kind of, you have to be able to put in place the political economy structure, in a sense that you have to be able to manage the BDCs, at the same time manage the political interests, and also manage the interests of your party. So if you are not able to handle the political economy interests very well, you are going to have a very serious problem in being able to run an organization like that, because there is a lot of interest in the oil sector, in a sense that politicians are in it, national security is in it, everywhere. And the crux of all the matter is that the politician is every corner. They are in national security, they are at TOR, they are the people who own tankers, they are the people who own all these businesses. So because they own the businesses and you want to handle it and you don't put the structures in place, it's not going to work. So what they did was that they were able to turn around these things. And within 6 months, they were able to generate about $21 million. And that is the $21 million that they have used to do all the retooling of the infrastructure that they have done. And they now say that we are now operational. So that $21 million that they wanted to sell it for $22 million, in 6 months they have generated $21 million. So you have to note that Edmond and his team had done a very good job. And that is how come that they have done that. One may ask whether the generation of that funds is sustainable. How did they do it? They decided that, most of their activities happen in the night because the flights move in the night. So if you TOR will close at 5 o'clock and go and sleep, the private sector is working till the following day. Right. When they take all the money from you, so they apply to MPA. MPA extended their working hours to, let's say, 10, 11, so that they can cash that interest hours. So that when the BDC come, they want to lift at that night, they can lift for them. If I will keep my oil there and I want to come and pick it in the night, say you are not operating in the night, I will not bring it there. I'll find an alternative means to do so. So this is what they have been able to do. So right now, can they be sustainable? One of the key things is that, are they able to have significant crude oil to be able to refine? That has been the challenge all the time. So the point is that they are working very hard to ensure that, I think, they can bring that together. I mean, currently their capacity is like 28,000, and all the 4 columns that they are doing, the column 1 has been dysfunctional for the past 30 years. No government has made any effort to make it, and that is the largest column. So once that they have now made it functional, you will notice that they can store more oil, they can produce, they can refine a lot of oil, and they can distribute. And when everything is now recommissioned, because it was decommissioned for a very long time, if it's now recommissioned, it's going to help them to be able to produce close to 60,000 metric tons per day. With SENTUO and others coming upstream, they'll be able to make about 70% of the need in Ghana, which means that we are not even going to import oil anymore. We import like 30%.
That's if it doesn't become political.
That's what I'm saying. So the will must be there.
Yeah.
The government must be serious about it. Right. They have to say that this is the time we want Ghanaians to show that we want to work for Ghana, not the interests of some few political pundits, so that at the end of the day, the whole thing crashes. We have heard of a rise of certain things, and all of a sudden it crashes. Yeah. So we don't want that. The people at TOR must be given the freedom to work. Like he was saying, appoint people who are competent, who are qualified, who have the tenacity and hope. If you look at Provençal case, he was in the private sector, and he was brought on board. even though he may be quite linked to the political line, but he has worked in the private sector. We did a case for them. That's why I'm able to give you all that background, because we did interviews in the sector with like a lot of the sector holders. There's a whole case on them. I even have it. We wrote it about, some of us at the business school, we wrote a case, for a business case.
Okay.
So that's why I'm able to give you all the background and everything. So these are what leaders must do. He uses the balance scorecard, which deals with the profitability, internal processes, and system learning, and all of that. And that is what Edmond and the people are. We even said that when state institutions emulate that system in place, they will be in a better position to reposition the state institutions that are making significant losses. And one of it was TOR that we even mentioned in the case, that TOR is not doing very well. There is something unique about them that they can leverage on. And they have been able to leverage on the uniqueness of it. So once they are able to maintain, the sustainability of it is maintained, they have regular supply of crude oil, they can do so. You remember that Ghana is an oil producing country, and we have our royalties, we have our participating interest, etc. So if government says, okay, fine, let's leverage on our royalties and our participating interest, and we give that to TOR, which now all the functions in place, the F61 in place and all of that, they should be able to refine our oil, because our oil is a sweet oil. Yeah. Very nice oil.
Very, very nice oil. I like that. We have Kwadwo Poku, who is Executive Director for Institute for Energy and Policies Research, joining us via Zoom as well. Good morning, Kwadwo.
Good morning, my sister. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm very happy to be here, because if I wasn't here, your gentleman in the studio would have threw a lot of dust in the eyes of Ghanaians.
Which of the gentlemen?
The Mohammed, the one that just spoke.
Okay, what dust is he throwing?
All the things he's saying all the things are untruth. Give me time to go through it step by step.
Okay, please. But then before you go through it, do you think the current restart of TOR is meaningful?
Yes, very meaningful. Okay. Every time TOR works, everybody is happy and everybody thinks that TOR is meaningful. Some of us have been of the view that TOR should never be converted into a tank farm, as been said in the past, or there should always be a solution so that TOR works. But everybody who also wants to talk about TOR should understand TOR. Nobody can sit on TV and say that the losses at TOR is leadership. It's not. It's mechanical.
Okay.
So give me some time to go through.
Please go through it, because we want to understand what the mechanical aspect of it is. Because under the NPP government, yes, like you're saying, mechanical aspect, where we had 3 or 4 leadership being changed. There's a different leader, and we are hearing that crude is being refined, which Ghanaians are happy about. So since you're an energy expert, please take over and explain to us.
Thank you very much. You see, the thermal refinery is made up of 2 parts. It's made up of what you call the CDU, okay, which is the CDU is basically a short form for crude distillery unit, which is the first part of the refinery. When you put crude oil, the crude oil goes through. Now, in the CDU, you get certain product, but there's a main product that comes out of the CDU called AR. Now, there's a second part of the distillery that is called RFCC, the residual fluid catalytic cracking. Now, because most of the products that we use locally, which is PMS, petrol, and diesel, most of the lighter fuel, which gives you more money, basically is produced through the RFCC. For some time, the RFCC have always been problematic. So in most times, even when the Isaac era, when they were doing the tolling with Vitor, you realize that they were only using the RFCC. Sorry, they were using only the CDU, the first part of the refinery, because the AR that comes in was being now exported. Now, let me go through a very miscommunication and misinformation that the NDC is putting out to Ghanaians. Nobody was selling TOR for $22 million. It's not true. This is what happened. there is always two schools of thought. One is that if you want to get TOR working, how do you go about it? Finding money to do turnaround maintenance has never been a problem at all. TOR has a lot of things that they have to do. Now, do you use your internal money to do those turnaround maintenance, or you find a partner who will commit to do the internal turnaround maintenance? With that commitment, he will now commit to also toll with you for a period of 5 to 6 years. You remember what the gentleman said, that finding crude is the biggest challenge for TOR. So the two school of thought is that if you can find a partner who will say that, look, I can bring you crude for 5 years, but to be able to bring you crude for 5 years, I want to now go into partnership agreement with you. I will spend my own money to retool, to refurbish the refinery. Then you commit the refinery to me for 5 years, and I guarantee to bring X amount of crude over the period. That is one school of thought, which is the agreement which they are talking about, that TOR was being sold for 22 million. What is the even a tank? How much is one tank farm at TOR that you think somebody will sell the whole of TOR for 22 million? It is a partnership agreement to give the refinery to a partner for him to spend his own money, so he is committed in providing crude. That is one aspect of it.
Fantastic. I like that you have clarified it. But the question here is,
let me go to the steps. Let me go to the next slide.
I'll let you go there. I just want to ask this: why didn't the NPP government be more transparent about this to Ghanaians? Because
the agreement had not even been implemented. Okay. At the latter stage, see, the problem I have with that agreement, because for me, the documents I have seen, it looked that it was rushed. It was more or less towards the latter stage of the administration. But you remember there was a company called Torenco.
I remember Torenco.
There was a company called Torenco. There were other proposals that had always come to TOR with that sort of ideology, right? That the partner will spend the money to refurbish TOR. And when the partner refurbishes TOR, he will be committed in supplying crude for a certain number of years. Like I was about to say, the only downturn is that because he spent his money to refurbish TOR, the tolling fee, he will negotiate it a bit lower. Now, let's go to the other school of thought, which is what has happened today.
Okay.
Now, my brother in the studio said that TOR is now applied to NPA to now run later in the day. My brother, TOR has always been 24 hours. When you turn on that refinery, you don't shut it down. It works 24 hours. Nobody has applied to anybody to work longer. Let me say this. In the last 1 year, the amount of products that come into the country has increased about 30%. So there is one place that we all offload products, which is petrol, diesel, and crude oil, which is something called the gantry, which is on the CBM. The CBM. The CBM is choked. When they do what you call the laycan is the schedule for ships to come into the port to offload products to Ghana. The only one CBM that we have, there isn't space for everybody to offload. So there's another part at the port called the jetty. Now, you can also offload from the jetty. When you offload from the jetty, all that product from the jetty go to TOR. So it has helped TOR in this year to make a lot of revenue on storage, because a lot of the companies are offloading from the jetty into the TOR tanks. In the previous years, you decide whether you want to store at all or not. In this year, because there is no space on the laycan at the CBM, people are forced So if you want to not be on the sea to get what you call demurrage, you have to offload into TOR. Now, bear in mind, when the CBM is busy, TOR gets a percentage of that money coming from the CBM. When the jetties now are offloading, TOR gets the money for storage and everything. So yes, admittedly, TOR has made a lot of money this year, which they have not made in previous years, because of the increase in volume of business that has gone to TOR this year. So the TOR management has raised and made some money, which they are all talking about $21 million to do the refurbishment. But in the previous years, there was no such volume going through TOR. So they did not have money even to pay SNET or GRA.
If you don't mind me asking, Kwadwo, where was the revenue going? Because if we are saying that
there was no revenue in the past.
Okay, so if under this administration they have managed, with regards to what you're saying, okay, you're saying that they are being forced to store at TOR, which has helped TOR generate that amount of money. That is the 21 million that is being said.
No more. They are making more. It's only 21
they are making
million.
more.
TOR is now making a lot of money.
Fantastic. In 7 years or 8 years, how come that they couldn't make that?
Because, my sister, as I said from the beginning, we have an increase in volume of products coming into the country.
So there was a decrease in volume at that time?
No. We are growing as a nation.
Okay.
We are growing.
And we've grown as a nation in 6 months?
In the last, look, from October last year to March this year, right, the product input into the country has grown by 25%.
And it couldn't grow like that in 7 years?
How do you grow products unless there's demand?
And there was no demand for 7 years, Kwadwo, is that what you're saying?
No.
For 7 years, there was no demand, but for the last 18 months or 9 months, there's been much demand. Is that what is being said?
No,
I just want to clarify. Okay, please explain.
Okay. We have what you call a CBM. The CBM is how you import products into the country. Now, let's say that CBM can allow you to offload 6 ships a month. Now, if you are bringing in, let's say, 1,000 tons of products, that's 6 ships can bring it in. When you grow year on year, you get to a point where you can no longer only offload 6 ships. You now need to offload 8 ships. And that is growth because of increase in business activity, because of increase in vehicular traffic, because of increase in industry, because of increase in a lot of things. So you need more petroleum products in a country than you need. It is not about why couldn't it happen 6 years ago. Because, as I explain to you all the time, in terms of the energy sector, even with electricity, we grow year on year. We grow by 250 megawatts a year. Recently, we heard the minister say that we have gotten to 4,000 something. So as a nation, we grow. Now, in 2026, the peculiar nature which made for a lot of money are in 2 folds. One, SENTUO, which that agreement even existed before the NDC came in. SENTUO has an agreement with with TOR to store products at the crude oil that SENTUO. Bear in mind, SENTUO doesn't have storage tanks. So SENTUO store their crude at TOR. All the crude oil coming in for the refinery, all the crude oil coming in for the electricity generation, the HFOs, all those ones are stored at TOR. All these are new arrangements that are bringing new revenue to TOR that did not exist before. My sister, this is TOR. If you go and look at the indebtedness of TOR, TOR owes everybody. TOR owes ECG, TOR owes SNET, TOR owes GRA, TOR owes everybody in this country. So are you telling me that the previous administration had money and they sat there and will allow their accounts to be garnishing? No, it's not true. So look, the new approach, they were able to do that, use internally generated funds to now do the turnaround maintenance because the refinery was making money from storage.
Fantastic.
Which did not exist before.
Okay, so I'll come back to you, but then, you know...
Now, let me conclude. Let me conclude before you come back to me.
Okay. Then let me ask you this before you conclude. Let me ask you this. the ordinary Ghanaian watching us this morning, okay, will say that they went to the polls and they voted. They voted in 2016 for the NPP government to come to power. The NPP government came to power. Under the NPP government, we did not see TOR survive. We saw losses.
No,
I'm coming. Let me make my point. Please let me land.
Stopped working.
Let me make my point.
When I'm stopped
done,
working in 2019.
Let me finish.
No, let me correct that.
Please let me finish, and then you come in. I beg you. I'm pleading with you. Okay? It didn't survive. If I say it didn't survive, if it started surviving and it died at a point, it did not survive. If you give birth to a child and after 2 years the child dies, it did not survive. And so,
can that child be brought back to life again? Can you use that as analogy?
Please, I'm coming. So if we say that it didn't survive, now what we are saying is that if under that period or regime it didn't survive, and then we are also hearing that under that regime, there was going to be a private partnership. From what you're saying, it's not sold like the NDC government is saying, but rather was supposed to be a private partnership for 5 to 6 years, private partnership. However, Ghanaians didn't get to understand it that way at that time. Was that going to save TOR? Or TOR could have, at that time, generated some sort of revenue to be able to pick up again to save our economy?
TOR was always going to be put in the right standing. When you say TOR did not, well, the reason I wanted to correct that was that there was a vital tolling agreement at TOR. You see, when people jump in 2024 and start discussing TOR, it's unfortunate. You have to know TOR from 2016. You have to know TOR from 2017 coming to understand where TOR has come from. We had a Wadaku TOR under the NDC. They made all sorts of noise that, TOR workers have given their salaries and TOR is working. When the MPP came in 2017, there were debt at TOR. The TOR at debt did not just arrive today. Haven't you ever heard about the TOR debt recovery levy, which President Kwadwo put in 2006? So look, let's not make it look like there is a refinery that was laying the golden goose. Sorry, there was a golden geese that was laying the golden egg. TOR has never been laying any golden eggs. So what I want to now put across is that the losses at TOR still exist. It hasn't gone away. Because before the CDU and the RFC was shut down, there were losses. Now that they've started to now run the CDU, and remember, they are only running the CDU now, not the RFCC. They are now doing the turnaround maintenance on the RFCC, and we will now see when they refine through the RFCC what the losses will be, if any. But the last thing I want to correct is the 23,000 capacity of TOR. When Dr. Mohammed said that it had not been like that for 30 years, it's not true. TOR was doing 45,000 on 2017. If you remember, the first month Honorable Isaac Osei took over, there was a fire at TOR. And that fire is what basically the burner was burnt, the furnace. The furnace got burnt and it brought down to 23,000. Now, there was a lot of work that was done. The parts were brought in and everything are in place. I know the new management, Combat and his crew, Edmond and his crew, are basically working around the clock to bring it back to 45,000. What is helping TOR today? And look, whenever government is continuous, and somebody comes in and is enjoying policies that has been put in place before, and the place is making money, and they are able to now turn it around and finding partners to bring crude. As we speak now, the crude they are refining to test the place is from SENTUO. So let's see. We all pray and we all hope that that place works. But let's not come in and spew on through to Ghanaians. That's all I want to correct.
All right. Don't go, because I'm having the show with you. So please don't leave, Kwadwo. I'll come back to you.
I'm not going anywhere, my sister. You don't wake me up in the morning and get me fired like this. I don't go anywhere.
Thank you so much. Stay on. I'll come back to you. Let me go to Solomon, because I see Solomon writing so much. But Solomon, before you go into whatever you've written, do you think that TOR's comeback is sustainable?
It should be sustainable because it's a state asset, and all of us, it has to be our wish. I don't see why it has to be difficult for us to sustain TOR if we are indeed truthful, if you are honest, if you are not corrupt, it's a viable business venture. Remember, TOR originally was an Italian company. That's why people don't know. In 1963, it was called Ghana Italian Petroleum Corporation. It was in 1977 that the government of Ghana, for the first time, decided to buy the entire shares in Ghana Italian Petroleum to become the property of Ghana. At that time, Kwame Nkrumah had brought in the 7-year development plan, so we wanted to emphasize on industrialization. You know, energy is a key, a major component when it comes to industrialization. So it was the reason why TOR became the property of Ghana. And it must be, and Ghanaians, and for that matter, various governments must make sure that it is sustainable for all of us. And it can. If we are not corrupt, it should be. But this morning, one thing that my brother Poku has succeeded in doing is confusing every listener. He has confused all your listeners. Myself here, confused.
Why?
The matter is so straightforward. You know, when you want to do politics with everything, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. I'm in this studio listening to Doc. What I heard him say was to use the strategy they use in uplifting boss to replicate it at all, to bring it back on stream. Then my brother Kwadwo comes in. The first statement is that everything that the man has said is a lie. If I was not here, he was going to lie to the entire. So I was very curious to listen to the lies that has been peddled here, so that I can set my guns blazing on Doc. He makes the point, which I believe, that it is leadership. Leadership is everything. The rest is effect. No, it's not leadership, but it's rather mechanical. Do we put leaders at TOR to deal with only commercial side, or to deal with both mechanical and commercial aspects of the business? So when you agree that the problems in TOR has to do with mechanical, then you are also reaffirming, re-echoing his point. Because the leadership that is at TOR is not supposed to deal with only one aspect, but they are also supposed to deal with every situation at all. And so for me, there wasn't any lie here. Look, it is corruption, and political interference that has brought us thus far.
If you say corruption, it's as though we have proof. You know, Kwadwo made a point. He said there's a CDU aspect of it, and you know there were two aspects of it, and that's what the problem was.
Look. Are you not surprised? As far back as 2003, that we brought in the Act 642. The Act 642 has to do with the TOR recovery levy. The main reason for bringing that TOR recovery levy by putting 8% on the fuel that you buy was to retire this debt. At the time, our debt position was $320 million. Between 2003 and 2024, TOR recovery levy that was at the point converted to ESLA had garnered close to $700 million. Why must TOR be in debt in the region of $517 million? If indeed we were taking this money from the Ghanaian population, the only reasonable deductions here is that the money that we paid were either misapplied, were either put in people's pocket, which should be the case. Because if you go into the various details of the debt, crude that they bought, they cannot even account for it.
Exactly.
So the only reason is corruption. And it is corruption because, like he said, politicians have used there as where they beg their businesses. Exactly. Those that are lifting crude, they are politicians. The tankers there are politicians. If you are not a politician, you cannot penetrate. Even if you are not a politician, those that are doing business there are the people that are referred to as party financiers. That's right. So how do you build a state institution like that? And it's the similar thing with ECG, similar thing with Cocoa Board. So if you have realized ECG is wallowing in a debt of about 68 billion, Cocoa Board is in a debt of about 32 billion, and you have TOR. It is because politicians, they poke their noses there. Party financiers, they poke their noses there. No other, it is not mechanical, it is nothing, it is these problems.
But there was a mechanical problem.
But the mechanical, that's why you have been put there as a leader. So were you there to solve problems that only
actually made us aware that, you know, it wasn't really the sale of TOR, but rather it was going to be a private partnership.
You see, I'm not too sure I understood what he really meant by partnership was said. The people have come out with the valuation of the. In fact, as we speak, TOR has a negative asset value.
Yes.
The total liability or the total debts of TOR far outweighs its assets. So even if you are getting 22 million, that was why they were pushing that narrative. Yeah. It will be like it's a windfall. You are making something that is supposed to be negative. You are making something out of it. So it becomes a good reason for you to sell it.
Sell it.
You understand? You are in this country. You had TOR. Because the government of the day didn't want to make TOR prosper, what did they do? They aided the Chinese to bring in SENTUO.
Exactly.
Don't we have SENTUO refinery here? They left TOR and concentrated on SENTUO. They didn't believe in TOR. For them, TOR has to be so cheap. And that is why we are where we are. So it has been political, it has been political. The leadership, if you get leadership that do not think about politics, you will be able to deal with this matter. You understand? I believe that when we discovered oil in this country, what prevented us as a country, as part of our agreement, that we will see some of the crude that were coming from Jubilee to TOR, for TOR to refine. As it is, we send all our crude out of this country, some to Rotterdam, some to other Singapore, for them to refine and come and sell it to us at an exorbitant price. When we have a facility here that could do so, for us to take advantage of various products that we can get from crude. So this is the situation. This is the ordinary sense that I make from it, and not any other mechanical or chemical or biological or whatever. The leadership are put there to fix every problem that comes their way. And I dare say that you asked a very instructive question. If you say TOR was running between 2017 to 2019 and it terminated, does it mean that it was still running? No, 2019 TOR had kaput. There was nothing seriously happening over there. So you have to give it up to this new administration. That for the first time, they are in the process of what? Making it work again. But here again, this is where we draw in the cautions. That they must not be swollen-headed. It also calls for the government to invest heavily in TOR, because as it says, TOR will need about between 700 million to 1 billion to reinvest in their operations, so that the machines that they have, as it is now, some of their machines are not able to produce standardized gasoline.
Do you think TOR should remain fully state-owned?
What has happened, I believe that it has to be partnership. You see, if you want to push the agenda of industrialization, you cannot leave everything in the hands of the private sector. Neither do you leave it in the hands of the government. It has to be a partnership, so that government will be protecting the interest of the state, and the private sector will be ensuring efficiency. Going by the private sector, man, if I go and put my money in TOR, I will not sit down for any politician who will come there and say that I'm a constituency chairman. So what? If you're a constituency chairman, go and do constituency business. TOR is not constituency business. So the private sector will be able to checkmate all these lapses, and that is the only way we can, as it were, manage it and manage it sustainably for all of us.
Okay, so Solomon has actually reacted to what Kwadwo said, but I think, Doc, you want to react, right? Because I saw you writing a lot.
I think that most of the things that I said was not true. He ended up confirming that I said they generated significant revenues. The 21 million is just what they have used to be able to do that. So if indeed the previous leadership had done it very well, I don't think that they would have had that challenge of generating enough revenue to do the retooling that they did.
But he told us how they generated the revenue.
Yes, I told you how they generated it.
He said...
I also said how they generated the revenue.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that when I said that their time of operation was extended, I know pipelines, you don't shut them down. They work throughout. But are the human beings there to do the work? Do you leave the pipelines to load when they are supposed to be doing? So ordinarily, the people close at what do you call it, 5 o'clock. So if an extension is given to them and they can do their operations up to a particular time to be able to complete their processes, what is wrong with that? So I'm just shocked that he's telling me that that was not operational, that it runs 24/7, and for that matter, it has to be 24/7. I mean, and he says that the tanks were not they didn't have the opportunity for them to be able to store the oil. Now that they have the opportunity, what made them not to be able to have the opportunity to store the oil? What is making the current administration being able to work to ensure that that happens? And I remember that before I started talking about TOR, I built my point from BOST. I spoke about how BOST was able to turn things around and make it more operational. Okay, I was not solely on only TOR, because I built my point from a particular angle before I capitalized on this. And you know, the TOR recovery levy of 8 pesos, etc. The same thing these guys also did. They had about 3 pesos or so, or 6 pesos, and they were able to increase it to about 12 pesos. And that's what they used to revamp most of their pipelines, etc. And that made them, they had a loss of about $468 million loss or so. I'm talking about BOST. But they were able to pay all these debts, and eventually they made a bounce back. They even won a lot of awards. If you go and check, you see the award they were winning, Energy of the Year, etc., and all of that. So I think that state institutions need to have quality leaders and supported by government effort, because it has to be in partnership. So if you also argue that they were having in place some partnership to be able to do so that they can revamp most of the CPUs and others that were not working, etc. What happened that those partnerships were not able to operationalize? Is it that the people they put in front were not able to negotiate very well, or the partners didn't find TOR worthy of working with? And Solomon just said, I mean, to have a negative asset position, which means that your liabilities are even more than your equity position and all of that, it needs a conscious agreement. So if the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, the President and the leadership of TOR, Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, etc., the BDCs and all of that, they can all collaborate in a very meaningful manner, I believe that we can have a sustainable TOR. So in as much as you may want to make your point must not be based on someone saying something and you come and say, I'm spewing lies, when you ended up confirming most of the things that I have said indirectly. If he was reasoning by himself, you realize that he confirmed most of the things that I said earlier. I don't think I spew out lies to anybody. I'm a person of integrity. I cannot be teaching at the university and come and spewing lies to people in national television. I will not do that if I haven't looked for information, and I will not appear and come and spew out lies. So, I mean, he has to be careful about the way he puts his things.
Okay, so we have Godwin Mahama join us. He's the head of corporate affairs for TOR, and he's called in. Good morning, Godwin.
Good morning, my dear sister.
How are you?
I'm doing good, yourself.
Fantastic. I'm fine, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us this morning, I must say. Ghanaians have seen the restart of TOR, seen the collapse of TOR, and now another restart of TOR. But then Ghanaians are not too confident. How can you boost our confidence in the situation that TOR is going to be sustained this time round?
Thank you very much, my dear. Ghanaians are very confident. There is no assessment or research that indicate that Ghanaians are not confident. The main reason why I support this morning is that having a show and there are conceptions that are being created, which I need your intervention to be able to correct those erroneous impressions being created. Particularly, Mr. Poku. One, he makes the point that it is not lack of leadership that has granted TOR into each state for the new administration took over. The question one would ask is, for the whole 8 years of the previous administration, the company had 7 different MDs being appointed to the refinery. If we had 7 MDs, how come TOR couldn't begin operation after 8 years? What it means is that averagely after every 1 year, 3 months, or 1 year, 2 months, a new MD is being appointed. Today, if for nothing at all, we have 2 MDs being appointed. The second one has made sure that in less than 1 year, the refinery is back to operation. In this instance, you cannot take away an issue of leadership from the equation. 2, you can also not take away the issue of political will. Prior to 2024 election, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama made commitment to the people of Ghana, particularly on TOR. Promised the people of Ghana that he will make sure TOR is reset and comes back to operation. So when the new MDs were appointed, he tasked them. Bear in mind, we took over an IMF program. So TOR had no option than to make sure that they raise money internally to be able to bring back the refinery to life. So as we speak, not even a dime, not even one Ghana has been borrowed to invest into the operations, which has brought about TOR back to life. It has been from our ideas. 2, he also made a statement that the revenue was not generated in the past. That is also a falsehood. How can he say that for the whole 8 years, revenues were not generated at all? Whilst in other instances, he made the point that TOR operated as a farm tank where
Godwin, are you saying that revenue was generated?
Revenues were generated. Okay. Because what you must know is that before we took over, finished products and crude oil were still stored at TOR, and service charges were being collected. The terminal business, where we do the transport or transportation of fuel in and out, were still functioning, and service charges were being collected. So to say that revenue were not generated in the past, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It is an issue of what was those monies used for. Because another administration came through
maybe the revenue that was generated wasn't as much as what has been generated in recent times.
Another government can generate money through the same means, which is the farm tanks and the terminal business. And they have been able to use those monies to turn around the refinery. 2, the same ideas is what we have been using to pay workers and pay whatever statutory obligations that we have. Since we came,
Godwin,
we have not fought it.
Godwin, let me ask you. Please, I'm sorry, let me come in here. If you say revenues were generated, do you have maybe an amount that was generated under the previous regime? Maybe $21 million US, maybe $50 million?
I cannot. As I said, I was just listening to your show, and I needed to come in.
Right.
But using common sense analysis, terminal business that they were running for the past 8 years is the same terminal business we are running today. The farm tank storage that was being used during the whole 8 years is the same farm tank that we are using. We've not built any additional farm tanks. And the service charges they were charging then are actually the same service charges we are today also charging. So no one can tell me revenues were not generated. 2 or 3, he also made the point that we have the CBM, where we do the arrangement of the lakehead, where products imported into the country is being offloaded. The lakehead is being given by NPA. Then he made the point that today we are using the jetty to import, and anytime you want to use the jetty, it comes to TOR. The jetty has been in operation before we took over. The jetty has been there over years. So it is not today that BDCs are using the jetty to offload their products to TOR. The jetty they have been using the jetty, only God knows how long before 2025 the new administration took over. So it is not a mandatory, it is an option. But what you must know is that anybody who has followed TOR knows certain issues regarding the refinery. Many a time, BDCs will tell you that when they store their product at TOR, the quantity they store, when they are coming to pick the product, they don't get the same quantity. You have losses and other things. So there was not much confidence from the BDCs towards the refinery in storing their product at the refinery. So one thing the new administration has done is to build that confidence and make sure that all the things that were happening, that BDCs could store their product, the quantity reduces anytime they are coming to offload or they are coming to load, becomes the thing of the past. So all those loopholes have been blocked. So today, we have been able to build the BDC's confidence in storing their product at all. That is why many of them today will prefer storing their product at all than storing at other places. This has to do with leadership. So to say that people were not putting their product at all simply because of ABC, what you must know is that the confidence there at all compared to today, today's one is very, very intact. Because we have put in place and blocked all those loopholes. All right. My last point, and let me leave your guest at the studio, is that he also made the point that Dr. Mohammed said, we are currently refining 23,000 barrels. We are refining 28,000 barrels per stream day, not 23. And said that doctor is saying that this is the first time over 30 years that we are refining 23,000. Listening to you, doctor did not say so. Doctor's 30 years was in reference to the columns. You know, TOR, the CDU has 4 columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Yes, there has been other minor turnaround maintenance.
All right, Godwin, you know what we have to do for you.
But when it comes to the column 1, let me.
Godwin, I want to bring you into the studio tomorrow. Is that okay? For you to come.
No, I'm coming. We'll talk about that off air. Let me clarify this.
You come here, don't you?
Why don't you want to come?
No, I said that let's have that conversation off air, so that at least these few minutes I can use to clarify this particular issue.
Okay. We have 4 all right. So please, 1 minute to wrap up then.
No problem. We have 4 columns at the CDU. The column 1 is what he's referring to, that even though there has been previous minor turnaround maintenance for over 30 years, no turnaround maintenance has touched the column 1. This is the first time after 30 years that a turnaround maintenance has touched the column 1. So that should be said, that he never said that the 23,000 refinery per stream day, this is the first time it's being done over 30 years. No, he was referring to the column 1 turnaround maintenance that was done on that. Then the last point also is that, yes, it is true, there has been deficit on the books of TOR. But what Ghanaians must know is that through the EFLA, where we had a TOR recovery levy in it, before NDC left office in 2016, or before we took over, the total debt of TOR was a little above $600 million. Through EFLA, before 2016, the NDC will leave power. They had cleared about half of the debt. So NDC handed over a debt of around $300 and something million to the NDC administration. Okay. Before they left power in 2024, it has increased to $570 million.
Okay, Godwin, unfortunately, I have to go now. Godwin, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to bring you into the studio. We'll talk about that, off air, and then we'll find a day to bring you into the studio. Then you can actually go deeper into it. And thank you so much for joining us, Godwin. We are grateful, okay? Solomon, you wanted to say something?
I mean, the point is that I come here very early in the morning. They cannot be in the comfort of their rooms and then be telling us, Godwin has to be here. It's not a TV station.
He's coming.
That has to be negotiating with him. He is the spokesperson of TOR refinery. He has to come and explain some of these matter detail. That is why he is there.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that, yes, you can, but the truth of the matter is that we have not managed TOR very well. Like he said, both administration, even predates them from the PNDC coming. Yeah. We have mismanaged TOR as a state asset, and that is why we have that huge debt. So if a new person has come and we are beginning to see something, the least we could do is to encourage him is to give him all the necessary support to turn around the fortunes of the place and not to be going back and say that we did. What you did never resulted in any money. You must accept it and apologize on top of it. The levels of corruption was legendary. And it is the reason why we are where we are. I can tell you that all the state institutions that we have, we are going to have leadership, quality leadership, and that political war. These are all viable endeavors. How can you go and say, oh yeah, and come and tell me that you have made losses? You sell electricity, you have made losses. You sell cocoa that we have already, the off-takers. Every low-hanging business, we are making losses. How can this be possible? It can only be possible when there is that levels of political maneuvering, interference. They see it as the property of few people. So when they go there, they make from it, and then they find beautiful excuses to defend why we have to be where we are. If refinery businesses were not good, I'm not too sure SENTUO will come and establish 100,000 capacity refinery here. I'm not sure. Whilst ours is running at a loss, there is a company. I don't remember the last time they came to declare to us that they have incurred losses. But we keep incurring losses because we have come to accept it. And the Ghanaian, we must not accept every day being told
that we are incurring.
We must not accept that.
Yeah, because some private companies don't incur losses.
No, but why must you?
They make profits.
Why must you?
Yeah.
Somebody brings his products to your place at a certain quantity. The next day he goes there and people have stolen it. The goods passed through a gate. Was there not a security person? Did the goods vanish into thin air? And we accept some of these things.
Both parties have governed when TOR struggled.
Yes.
How can we trust that?
We can't trust. That's why United Parties here. That is why I'm inviting you. The Ghanaian must begin. You see, where we have got it to, it's not too much about the political parties. It is about the individuals that we put in positions. I don't believe that if we're going to take the 34 million Ghanaians, our best shots are those that are in parliament. Our best shots are those that are ministers. Our best shots are those that are manning the various state institutions. But because of the way and manner we do our politics, Ghanaians must begin to think aloud, look wider, and look for people that have the state at heart. Let's give them the mandate. When they do and do it well, it affects all of us. This morning we discussed about the transportation situation. Yeah. If we have a quality person leading and we have our trams, we have our metros, we have public buses system working, why would I not be happy? That is all we call for. It's not about who is having position. If you hold a position and you can't do anything, what's the benefits of it?
Solomon, how do you think we can stop political interference in TOR?
I mean, if the people of this country, see, also has its roots, how we fund our political activities. In this country, this is the only place that when you go and do a meeting, I go and do political meeting. When I'm done, the people say in the crack and say, what do you mean by the crack and say, are you not going to leave anything behind? You expect me to give you money. It means, and I'm not printing monies in my homes, I have to go and see somebody who calls himself a political financier. The person gives me the money. He or she is also not a Father Christmas, expecting something in return. So the person gives me the money. I'm going to give it to the person at the grass who say in the crack, they say, then in the event I win power, the person comes to me. A business that is supposed to cost us 1 cedi, he will tell me that, remember when you were going to Newtown to do your rally, you came for some money. Let's make it 1,000 cedis. Would I be in a position to stop that person? So I said, go ahead. So we shortchange. In that effect, me as the president, all that I have to do is to call the one that I appointed to man the state institution that, you know what, the person helped this. So when it comes, even if the thing is 1 cedi, make the contract 1,000. So the first point is to educate the minds of our electorate, that we don't have to monetize our politics. Your actions and inactions at the various constituencies is what is rearing its head at the higher levels for politicians to shortchange the people of this country. And secondly, we generally have people who are bad, who are dishonest. We generally have them. When I go into the realm of Kenofurata, sometimes you don't understand. Didn't we have Obotan in this country in the 90s? When they swindled Snit, how come did he become a finance minister? If indeed we had the national security or the NIB that claims that anybody who becomes a minister or somebody who holds a position in government, they really do a background check. How come we had Obotan in his name, yet we made him to become our minister? What were the parliamentarians doing when in fact we had even petitioned them that do not go ahead? So we genuinely have dishonest people in politics who really, all that they are interested is to milk the state and enrich themselves. We must begin to look out for those who are sincere. Don't be looking out for those who come and tell you that I have money, I have this. Go back to their backgrounds. Look at their policies and programs, how patriotic they are, and you settle on them. Now, when we begin to do that, I can tell you, a lot of these people who are interested in stealing from the state, they run away from politics. They run away from
politics. Okay, Kwadwo, I think you want to react to what has been said, right? In 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yes, please. You see, there is this simplistic conversations that people like to have that I honestly think that, well, it's good for TV, but it doesn't really solve any problem. Look, my brother again talked about bust because of leadership and that and that. When I say that it's not about leadership, but it's mechanical, let me give you a little explanation using the bust example.
Please go ahead.
When Edwin Provençal took over bust, his biggest problem was that the bust margin was 3 pesewas at the time, and he couldn't do anything for him. Most of the innovation, most of the things that people thought that Provençal did was because the civil society collaborated with bust, with Provençal, and lobbied government to increase the bust margin from 3 cedis to 12 cedis, from 3 pesewas to 12 pesewas. Because bear in mind, as much as you have good intent as a leader, the work you need to do, what do you need to do that? It's money. Now, people say that we should keep things as state assets. Now, when things are state assets, who is the 100% shareholder? It's the government. If the government is not inputting the money you need, how do you turn around the mechanical deficiencies? That is the issue. Poku never said that there were no receipts or receivables at all. What I said is that there has been an increase in the receivables. Because bear in mind, TOR makes money from GPMS, which is the CBM. TOR makes money from storage and all the auxiliary products that they do, programs that they do. But that is just enough to pay salaries. Now that there are increase in volumes, there are increase in products going through TOR, they're able to make more and do the turnaround maintenance. One of the things that everybody should know is that it's early days. Let's not start saying that TOR is not losing money. We don't know. The only thing different from now and 2019 is that TOR refinery machine was shut down and now it's been shut on. Sorry, it's been brought on. Okay, that's all. Because there's nothing wrong with the refinery. In terms of turnaround maintenance, there's been numerous turnaround maintenance in the last 8 years. It got to a point where they were not getting any crude oil, so they have to shut down the refinery. Today, there has been a maintenance done, which has always been going on. Now, they have secured some crude oil in their tanks, which belongs to SENTUO, and they are working with other people to bring in crude for the refinery to continue working. It's early days for anybody to now start saying that TOR is making money, but there are no losses. We need to commend where the commendation is. The commendation is that, yes, the team there today, I have been there. I mean, I can show you pictures of me walking around the TOR, the refinery, to see for myself the maintenance they have done. Okay? So let's not make it look like it is somebody that you put there that have all the ideas and can turn the place around. If he doesn't have the money, in the case of Provençal at Bust, he didn't have the money. We have to help him get more money to turn around Bust. In the term of TOR debt recovery levy sits with the Ministry of Finance. Now, when the gentleman was speaking, he talks about a debt which is owed TOR. Let me tell you something that I have told the MD of TOR when I went there. The debt that sits in the book of TOR, that same debt does not sit in the book of Ministry of Finance. There are people that have been paid by Ministry of Finance, but that debt still sits in the Ministry of TOR. Sorry, still sits with TOR. So I told Combat when I went there that they should reconcile their books with Ministry of Finance. Because I know instances in the last 4 or 5 years where somebody has been paid by Ministry of Finance and I've gone back to TOR trying to collect the same money.
Okay, Kwadwo, all right. Thank you so much. But will you agree with me if I say that when you are appointed into a position, you are appointed to make sure that you generate revenue, no matter how you generate the revenue, not losses, to make sure that that company survives? Do we agree?
Yes, we agree, but
Thank you.
your
So
ability,
then
not
does
your ability.
So do we then agree also that if you are there and you are running losses, then you are not doing the right thing? Do we
No,
agree?
because the losses is out of the hands of the individual. I'll give an example. The current managing director of ECG doesn't control the losses. He can't. No, the technical losses is 10%. How does he control that? Unless you invest $500 million into ECG, that 10% losses of mechanical losses will still be there.
So if one day we get a leader who is able to fix that, will we then say that that person could not do it or
if
could
one
do
day
it?
we get a leader who is able to find the money. You see, it is finding the money.
So the leader finds the money. So as a leader, that's what you're supposed to do, to find the money.
No. That's not the case. Because you know what? Who owns the asset?
Okay.
Me and you. Now, for the leader to find the asset, he has to take the money from me and you. That is what Ghanaians don't like doing. We don't like paying taxes.
Okay, Kwadwo, thank you so much for joining us. We are so grateful that you made time for us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kwadwo. Yes, the doc, please, we have just about 2 minutes. We want to find a way to sustain TOR. And so give us 3 ways that we can sustain TOR at this point. I know you want to react, but don't react.
I will say that
yes.
You cannot use robots to make TOR sustainable. You have to use leaders to make it sustainable. Negotiation skills is very important. Your internal processes is very important. How do you handle the people internally? How do you train them? If you remember, one of the CPUs were not working, the finance FSs that they just installed, they have to bring people to train them. It was already there, but there were no people who were being trained to operationalize it. Right now that they have done the training, these people can now operationalize that kind of finance. And that is what's going to bring the revenue that he's talking about. Without proper leadership, you cannot bring in revenue. People have to be foresight, visionary, etc., to be able to bring in more revenue. Now, I think that what they need to do is that they need to maintain their profitability, which means that they have to do all what it has to do to continue to have their revenue being up. And secondly, they need to ensure that their internal processes work and work efficiently. And the final thing is that the systems must work. If systems do not work, you cannot have progress in your business.
Thank you so much. This is all time will permit us. We are grateful that you made time for us this morning. Solomon, don't worry. Next week we'll have more.
Don't worry.
Solomon Owusu, who is the communications director for United Party, joined us. Thank you once again. Dr. Jabril Mohammed, he is energy and financial economist with the University of Ghana Business School. So join us. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
And of course, Poku, who is the executive director for Institute for Energy Policies and Research. He also joined us via Zoom. So today, unfortunately, we couldn't even read our messages because we have so much to discuss. But tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to read all our messages. We are hoping that TOR will be sustained this time round, because when it happens like that, we know that our fuel prices will definitely go down, our economy will boost, because when the energy sector is struggling, the economy will struggle too.